The salvage ship called Frontier's Edge moved slowly through the darkness of space. Captain Maya Torres stood on the bridge and watched the screens with tired eyes. They had been searching for 3 weeks now and found nothing worth taking home. The crew needed a good find soon, or this trip would be another waste of fuel and time. "Captain, you need to see this," said Jack Chen from his station. He was the ship's engineer, a man who could fix anything with enough time and the right tools. His voice held something unusual. Excitement, maybe. Maya walked over and looked at his screen. "What am I looking at?" "A station. A big one. It's orbiting that dead star we passed 2 hours ago." Jack pointed at the readings. "But here's the strange part. It's not showing up on any of our databases. No records at all." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their xenoarchaeologist, came closer to see. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "How old?" she asked. Jack shook his head. "The computer can't tell. The materials don't match anything we know. But if I had to guess, millions of years, maybe more." Maya felt her heart beat faster. A find like this could change everything. Take us closer, slowly. The station grew larger on their screens as they approached. It was massive, bigger than any human city. Strange towers reached out from a central ring, and lights that had been dark for ages covered its surface. But something was wrong about it. The metal showed no rust, no damage from space debris, no signs of age at all. "It looks new," Yuki said quietly. "How is that possible?" They docked carefully at what looked like an entrance port. The airlock accepted their ship without any problems, as if it had been waiting for them. The three of them put on their suits and entered the station together. Inside, everything was clean and empty. Their boots echoed on floors that looked like crystal, but felt solid as stone. Lights came on as they walked, showing hallways that stretched far into the distance. The architecture made no sense. Walls curved in ways that hurt to look at. Doorways led to rooms that seemed bigger inside than outside. "This is incredible," Yuki whispered. She ran her scanner over the walls. "The technology here is beyond anything I've ever seen. We need to document everything." Jack stopped at a junction where 3 hallways met. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly. He touched one panel and something clicked deep within the station. A doorway appeared where there had been only wall before. "Jack, be careful," Maya warned. But the engineer was already moving forward, curiosity pulling him like gravity. The doorway led to a chamber that took their breath away. It was huge, with a ceiling so high they couldn't see the top. At the center stood a throne. It sat on a raised platform, made of some black material that seemed to drink in light. The throne was beautiful and terrible at the same time, covered in those same glowing symbols. Yuki moved to examine the room's walls. "There are recordings here. Holographic data storage. Give me a moment." She worked at a control panel that appeared when she approached. The room came alive with images. They watched as beings from dozens of different species approached the throne. Each one sat down, and each one was thrown back violently, sometimes dead, sometimes screaming. The images showed this happening again and again, thousands of times. "It's a test," Yuki said. "Each species tried to claim the throne. All of them failed. What happens if someone succeeds?" Maya asked. "I don't know. The records show thousands of attempts over millions of years. No one ever passed." Jack walked around the throne, studying it from all angles. His engineer's mind tried to understand how it worked. There must be some kind of scanning system. It reads whoever sits down and judges them somehow. Judges them for what? Maya frowned. And what gives this throne the right to judge anyone? They spent hours in that chamber, recording everything they could. Yuki copied the holographic records. Maya documented the architecture. Jack examined every panel and wire he could find, trying to understand the technology. The station was a mystery that seemed to have no answers. Every room they explored raised new questions. They found chambers full of devices they couldn't identify. Libraries of data in languages that made their translation software crash. Maps of star systems that no longer existed. As the hours passed, they began to understand one thing. Whoever built this station had been powerful beyond imagination. They had technology that humans were thousands of years from understanding, and they had left this throne as some kind of test, waiting for the right person to come along. "We need to report this," Maya said finally. "This is bigger than us. The council needs to know." "Agreed," Yuki said. "This could change everything we know about the galaxy's history." Jack nodded, but he couldn't take his eyes off the throne. Something about it called to him in a way he couldn't explain. It wasn't evil or dangerous feeling. It was more like recognition, as if the throne knew him somehow. "Let's head back to the ship," Maya said. "We'll send the data and wait for instructions." As they left the chamber, none of them noticed the throne's symbols glowing just a bit brighter than before. The station had been waiting a very long time. And now, finally, something had changed. The humans didn't know it yet, but their discovery had already been noticed by others in the galaxy. Far away, in the halls of power where species argued over territory and trade, sensors detected the station's reawakening. Ancient alarms, silent for ages, began to sound. And across the stars, ships began to move toward the dead star and its impossible station. The race had begun, though the humans didn't know they were in it yet. The message reached the Galactic Council 6 hours after Maya sent their report. By hour 7, the council chambers erupted in chaos. By hour 8, 3 major empires had ships moving toward the coordinates. On the frontier's edge, the crew had no idea what storm they had started. Maya was reviewing their findings when Jack called from the station. "Captain, you should come see this. We found more chambers." Maya and Yuki returned to the station. Jack had been working through the night, mapping corridors and cataloging rooms. He looked exhausted but excited. "There are dozens of chambers like the throne room. Each one has different equipment, different purposes. I think this place was like a capital city or government center." "Have you found any clues about who built it?" Yuki asked. "Nothing clear, but the technology suggests a species that understood physics in ways we don't. Some of these devices seem to bend space itself." They spent the day exploring. Jack worked on trying to access the station's power systems. Yuki studied the holographic records. Maya kept checking their sensors, watching for any approaching ships. The dead star's gravity made scanning difficult, but she knew others would come eventually. By evening, they were all tired. Jack sat down on a bench in one of the corridors to rest. Except it wasn't a bench. It was a control station, and his weight triggered something. Lights blazed through the hallway, and a voice spoke in a language that their translators couldn't process at first. "Interesting," Yuki said, studying her scanner. "The station is trying to communicate. It's downloading language data from our systems." The voice spoke again, clearer now. "Scanning, identifying, processing genetic markers." "Genetic markers?" Jack stood up quickly. "It's scanning our DNA? All personnel are cataloged," the voice continued. 3 humans detected. Species classification, previously unknown. Genetic analysis, remarkable. Unprecedented match detected. Match? Maya's hand moved to her weapon. Match to what? Progenitor baseline markers presented 78% correlation. Likelihood of direct descent, 94.7%. This outcome was not anticipated. The 3 humans looked at each other. "What's it talking about?" Jack asked. Yuki's face had gone pale. "Progenitors. That's what the records call the species that built this place. They called themselves the Progenitors, but I thought it was just a title, not a literal description." "Recommendation," the voice said. "Potential inheritors should proceed to the throne of recognition for verification. This unit will guide you." Lights appeared in the floor, forming a path. Maya made a decision. "We follow it, but carefully. And Jack, don't touch anything else." The path led them back to the throne room. This time the chamber was fully lit. The throne sat at the center, waiting. Around the walls, holographic images appeared. They showed the same species attempting to claim the throne, but now text accompanied each image. Names, dates, reasons for rejection. "Too much genetic modification," Yuki read. "That's the reason for most rejections. These species change their DNA too much. The throne doesn't recognize them as descendants." "But humans haven't done that," Jack said. "We've kept our DNA mostly natural. Medical repairs, yes, but no major changes. Which might make us the first species in millions of years that the throne will accept," Maya said slowly. "This is bigger than a salvage operation. This is first contact with a dead civilization that might not be as dead as we thought." The voice spoke again. "Clarification. The progenitors have departed this plane of existence. They underwent successful ascension 12 million years ago. This station was left as a fail-safe mechanism. In the event that descendants achieve space travel, they may claim the inheritance left behind." "Inheritance?" Maya asked. "What inheritance?" "Technology, knowledge, authority over all progenitor installations across the galaxy. 12 primary stations, 417 secondary facilities, defensive networks, manufacturing systems, The complete infrastructure of an empire that spanned 100,000 stars. The three humans stood in shocked silence. Finally, Jack spoke. You're saying whoever sits on that throne gets control of all that? Correct. However, only a true descendant may claim the throne. All others are rejected to prevent misuse of progenitor authority. Maya's communicator beeped. She checked it and her face hardened. We've got company. 3 ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. They're moving this way fast. What ships? Yuki asked. The signatures match Carthresh Dominion, Zanari Collective, and Vol Sovereignty, the 3 biggest empires in the Council. Jack understood immediately. They want the throne. They want whatever power it offers. Then we need to leave, Maya said. Now, before they get here. But the station had other ideas. The doorway sealed shut. Negative, the voice said. Potential inheritors detected. Security protocols engaged. No one may leave until the inheritance is claimed or rejected. You can't trap us here, Maya said angrily. This unit can and will. The inheritance has waited 12 million years. A few more hours will not matter. Jack looked at the throne. It didn't look dangerous up close. It looked almost comfortable. He was exhausted from a day of exploring and his legs hurt from walking endless corridors. Without really thinking about it, he sat down on the throne to rest. Everything changed in an instant. Golden light exploded through the chamber. It poured from the throne like water, surrounding Jack completely. He felt the light enter him, searching through every cell of his body. It read his DNA like a book, comparing it to templates billions of years old. Maya and Yuki shouted his name, but Jack couldn't hear them. He was lost in visions. He saw the progenitors in their glory, a species that had mastered science and built wonders. He saw them decide to leave, to move beyond physical existence to something higher. He saw them leave their stations behind, waiting for their children to grow up and find them. The light faded. Jack opened his eyes. Strange symbols glowed on his skin, running up his arms and across his chest. They were the same symbols that covered the throne. Recognition confirmed, the voice said, and now it sounded almost excited. True descendant identified. Genetic markers match baseline patterns. No significant modification detected. Welcome, Inheritor. The throne accepts you. The entire station came alive. Lights blazed in every corridor. Dormant systems activated after millions of years of sleep. Outside, the station's shield suddenly appeared, a shimmering barrier that would stop any weapon the galaxy knew. And on the approaching ships, alarms began to sound. The 3 empires had arrived to claim a throne. Instead, they found it had already been claimed by someone else. By a human. By a species they had never heard of before today. Jack stood up slowly. The symbols on his skin faded, but he could still feel something different inside him. A connection to the station. Knowledge flowing into his mind. I think, he said quietly, we just made humanity very important. Or very dangerous. Maybe both. Outside, the 3 fleets arrived and took positions around the station. They couldn't break through the shields. They couldn't leave, trapped by their own desire for power. And inside, Jack Chen, engineer and reluctant inheritor, began to understand just what he had accidentally become. The 3 fleets sat outside the station's shields like predators waiting for prey. Maya watched them on the sensors, counting ships and weapons. 57 vessels total. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. Jack stood near the throne, his hand resting on its surface. Ever since sitting down, he felt different. The station whispered to him in ways he couldn't quite explain. They can't get through the shields, he said with certainty he shouldn't have. How do you know that? Yuki asked. I just do. The shields were built to stop weapons far beyond what they have. The progenitors fought wars against enemies we can't imagine. These ships are like children throwing rocks at a fortress. The communication channel crackled to life. A harsh voice spoke in the galactic common language. Unknown vessel frontier's edge. This is Commander Carthresh of the Carthresh Dominion. You have activated a progenitor facility. By council law, this makes it council property. Surrender control immediately or face destruction. Maya responded carefully. Commander, we discovered this station legally in unclaimed space. We have every right to be here. Right? Another voice broke in, smoother but no less dangerous. I am Diplomatic Envoy Vesh of the Zanari Collective. This facility predates your species' existence in space by millions of years. You cannot possibly understand what you have found. For your own safety, relinquish control. A third voice joined, deep and rumbling. The Vol Sovereignty agrees. You are children playing with weapons you do not comprehend. Step aside before you hurt yourselves or others. Jack moved to the communication panel. This is Jack Chen. I am the one who activated the throne. And I'm telling all of you to leave. This isn't council property. It's not anyone's property except whoever the throne accepts. And it accepted me. The channel went silent for a moment. Then Carthresh spoke again, anger clear in his voice. You, a human? Impossible. The throne has rejected every species that tried for millions of years. You must have tricked it somehow. The throne cannot be tricked, the station's AI said, speaking over the open channel. This unit has monitored 4,732 attempts to claim the throne. All were rejected due to genetic incompatibility. The human Jack Chen possesses 78% genetic markers matching Progenitor baseline. He is the first acceptable candidate in the station's operational history. That's a lie, Vesh said. We Zanari have studied the progenitors for centuries. Our genetic modifications were designed to bring us closer to their perfection. We must have higher compatibility. Zanari genetic modification percentage, 97% of original genome altered. Progenitor compatibility, 12%. You are too different from the baseline. The human is almost entirely unmodified. This makes him far more compatible. Jack was beginning to understand. You all changed yourselves. Modified your DNA to be stronger, smarter, better. But in doing so, you stopped being descendants. Humans never did that. We stayed natural. That's why the throne accepts me. Yuki was working at a console, studying the holographic records that filled the room. Jack, you need to see this. I've been able to access deeper archives. The progenitors didn't just leave this station. They left a message. She activated a recording. A holographic figure appeared, tall and graceful, with features that looked almost human but not quite. It spoke in a language that the station translated instantly. To whoever finds this message, greetings. We are the progenitors, the first species to achieve faster-than-light travel in this galaxy. We spread across the stars and found them empty of intelligent life. So we seeded worlds with our genetic material, hoping that someday our children would grow, evolve, and reach for the stars themselves. The figure gestured and images appeared, worlds being seeded with life, DNA being carefully placed in oceans and soils, evolution being gently guided toward intelligence. We watched our children grow. We saw dozens of species achieve sentience. We were proud. But we also knew we could not stay. Our understanding had grown beyond physical existence. We were ready to ascend to a higher plane. Before we left, we built these stations. We left them as gifts for our descendants. Whoever among them remained truest to our genetic heritage would be able to claim the inheritance. Not because unchanged genetics are superior, but because unchanged genetics prove that a species can reach the stars without losing what made them special in the first place. The hologram looked directly at them, as if seeing across millions of years. To the one who claims the throne, you carry our legacy in your very cells. Use what we left wisely. Unite our children. Help them remember they are all family, no matter how different they have become. This is our final wish, the message ended. The throne room was silent. Jack felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. Outside, the fleets had heard everything. The channel opened again. This changes nothing, Carthresh said. Progenitor technology belongs to the strong. We will take that station. Shields cannot last forever. Actually, the station AI said pleasantly, these shields can last approximately 47 million years on current power reserves. This unit suggests you reconsider your approach. Maya looked at Jack. What do we do? We can't hide in here forever. No, Jack agreed, but we can learn. Station, you said the progenitors left knowledge.
Can you teach me?
This unit was designed for that exact purpose, Inheritor. The archives contain the complete scientific and cultural knowledge of the progenitor civilization. However, full integration will take time. Estimated duration for basic competency, 30 days. Full mastery, approximately 5 years. We don't have 5 years, Yuki said. Then we start with basics, Jack said. He moved to the throne and sat down again. This time he knew what to expect. The light came again, but gentler. Information flowed into his mind. Not everything at once, but carefully organized. The station was teaching him how to access the systems. How to control the shields. How to use the defensive weapons. Jack, be careful, Maya warned. Knowledge can be dangerous, so can ignorance, Jack replied. His eyes glowed faintly with the same golden light as the throne. The progenitors built these stations to be safe. They didn't want their children fighting over them. The throne gives authority, but it also gives responsibility. I can feel it. I'm not just gaining power. I'm accepting a duty to protect this place and what it represents. Outside, more ships arrived. Word had spread across the galaxy. The legendary progenitor throne had finally accepted someone. Dozens of species wanted to see, to negotiate, or to conquer. The dead star's orbit became crowded with vessels, all waiting to see what would happen next. Yuki continued studying the archives. Jack, there's something else you should know. This isn't the only station. The message mentioned 12 primary installations. If you've been accepted here, you might be accepted at all of them. Jack opened his eyes. The golden glow faded. 12 stations. 12 seats of power spread across the galaxy. The progenitors really did want their children to inherit everything. Can you control all of them from here? Maya asked, eventually. But first, I need to prove I deserve to. The station said there are trials. Tests to ensure whoever claims the throne is truly worthy. Not just genetically compatible, but morally capable of wielding this much power. Then we prepare, Maya said firmly. Whatever comes next, we face it together. You're not alone in this, Jack. Jack nodded, grateful for his friends. Outside, the siege continued. Inside, a human engineer began his transformation into something far greater. The galaxy was about to change, and no one was quite ready for how much. 3 days after Jack claimed the throne, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Maya watched the transmission from the station, seeing representatives from dozens of species argue about what to do with humanity. This is unprecedented, said Council Speaker Morvan, a Zanari elder with silver skin and 3 eyes. A species unknown to us has claimed the most powerful artifact in known history. We must consider the implications. The implications are clear. Kraltek stood, his scaled body towering over most others. Humans are dangerous. They stumbled onto power they do not understand. We should remove them from the station by force if necessary. And start a war? Challenged Representative Tesh of the Vol. That station's weapons could sterilize our homeworlds. We saw what happened to the Carthresh probe you sent. It was destroyed before it crossed the shield boundary. Maya had watched that too. The Carthresh had tried to send a small ship through the shields to plant explosives. The station's defenses had turned it into vapor in seconds. Jack hadn't even needed to give the command. The station protected itself. Then we negotiate, said Envoy Vesh. We offer the humans membership in the council, trading rights, protection, anything they want in exchange for sharing the progenitor technology. You mean taking it from them? Another representative said. Let us be honest about our intentions. The council descended into arguing. Maya muted the transmission and turned to where Jack sat at a console, studying data streams that flowed too fast for her to follow. They're going to try something, she said. We need to contact Earth, tell them what is happening. Already done, Jack said without looking up. I sent a message 6 hours ago using the station's communication array. It is faster than anything humanity has. Earth should receive it in another day. And what will they say? Yuki asked. She had been cataloging progenitor artifacts, trying to understand the scope of what they had found. When they learn one of their citizens has become the heir to an ancient empire, they will probably panic, Jack said with a slight smile. Then they will send diplomats. Then they will argue about whether I represent Earth or just myself. Politics as usual. You've changed, Maya observed. You're different from 3 days ago. Jack finally looked at her. His eyes still held that faint golden glow when he used the station's systems. I am learning faster than I thought possible. The throne does not just give me access to knowledge. It makes me able to understand it. Physics that should take years to study, I absorb in hours. Languages that should be impossible to learn, I speak fluently. It is both wonderful and terrifying. Are you still you? Maya asked quietly. Jack stood and walked to her. For a moment, the glow faded from his eyes completely. Yes, I'm still me. Still Jack Chen. Still the guy who fixes broken engines and drinks too much coffee. But I'm also becoming something more. The station needs me to be more if I'm going to fulfill the duty the progenitors left behind. An alarm sounded. The station AI spoke with urgency. Warning. Carthresh assault group attempting to board through auxiliary port 17. They are using progenitor-era breaching technology. How did they get that? Yuki demanded, unknown. However, the technology is several million years out of date. Current defenses will neutralize the threat. No, Jack said suddenly. Let them board, but contain them in the entry corridor. I want to talk to them. Jack, that's dangerous, Maya protested. I need to understand what we are dealing with. If they have old progenitor technology, they have been studying these facilities longer than we thought. We need to know how much they know. The station obeyed. Maya watched the sensors as 6 Carthresh soldiers entered the station. They moved in formation, weapons ready, expecting resistance. Instead, they found themselves in a corridor with no exits. Walls sealed behind and ahead of them. They were trapped but unharmed. Jack appeared before them as a hologram projected through the station's systems. Commander Carthresh sent you, he said. It was not a question. He gave you breaching tools and told you to plant explosives on the throne room supports. The lead soldier, a massive Carthresh named Gorth, raised his weapon. How did you know that? The station reads your equipment. It knows every tool you carry, and I can read the station. Jack's hologram moved closer. Tell me where you got that breaching tool. The progenitors have been gone for millions of years. That technology should not exist anymore. Gorth hesitated, then apparently decided he had nothing to lose. There are other stations. Smaller ones. We found one in Carthresh space 20 years ago. We studied it, learned from it, but we could never activate the central systems. They required genetic verification we could not provide. So you have been trying to unlock progenitor secrets for 2 decades, Jack said. And now someone else succeeded where you failed. That must be frustrating. You are human, Gorth spat the word like an insult. Your species discovered faster than light travel only 50 years ago. You are children. You do not deserve what you have found. Deserve. Jack's voice hardened. The throne does not care about what anyone deserves. It cares about genetics, about staying true to what the progenitors were. Your people modified themselves so much that you share almost nothing with them anymore. Humans never did that. We kept our DNA natural. That is why the throne accepted me. Then you are a fool, Gorth said. Unmodified genetics are weak, primitive. We made ourselves better, stronger, smarter. You are nothing but an accident of evolution. Jack was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was sad. That is what the progenitors feared, that their children would change themselves so much they would forget where they came from. They did not leave these stations for the strongest or the smartest. They left them for whoever remembered to stay humble, to stay connected to their origins. He turned to the station AI. Release them. Send them back to their ship unharmed. That is unwise, Inheritor, the AI cautioned. They will report our defenses. Let them. I want Commander Carthresh to know that I could have killed his soldiers but chose not to. Maybe it will make him think before he tries something else. The Carthresh were released. They fled back to their ship, confused and angry. Maya watched them go and shook her head. You are too merciful. They will see it as weakness. Maybe, Jack agreed. But the progenitors did not leave these stations to breed more war. They wanted unity. I have to at least try to achieve that, even if it seems impossible. Yuki called from across the chamber. Jack, I found something in the archives. It is about Earth, about humans specifically. Jack and Maya joined her at the console. Holographic data filled the air between them, showing DNA sequences and evolutionary charts. The progenitors kept records of every world they seeded, Yuki explained. Earth was one of the last. They seeded it 12 million years ago, right before they ascended. They left very specific instructions for how life should evolve there. Instructions? Jack asked. Yes, they guided evolution through careful genetic engineering, making sure certain traits would develop. They wanted Earth's dominant species to be social, creative, and adaptable. They wanted a species that would reach for the stars but remember where they came from. They were making humans. Maya whispered. Specifically, intentionally. Not just humans, Yuki corrected. They were making a species that would stay genetically pure. Most worlds they seeded eventually developed species that modified themselves heavily once they achieved advanced science. But they designed Earth's environment to make genetic modification unnecessary. Humans are healthy, adaptable, and diverse enough naturally that we never needed to change our DNA to survive or thrive. Jack felt something shift in his understanding. They were making sure someone would be able to claim the throne. After millions of years of children who changed too much to inherit, they made one last attempt to create a species that would stay true to the baseline. And it worked, Yuki said. You are proof that it worked. The weight of that revelation settled on Jack's shoulders. He was not just an accidental heir. He was the result of 12 million years of careful planning. The progenitors had literally created humanity to inherit their legacy. What do we do with that information? Maya asked. We keep it to ourselves for now, Jack decided. If the galaxy learns that humans were specifically designed to rule these stations, it will cause panic. They will see us as progenitor weapons instead of progenitor children. The transmission from the council resumed. Speaker Morven was calling for a vote. All those in favor of declaring the progenitor station neutral territory under council supervision. Almost every hand went up. Jack watched and understood what it meant. They were trying to take the station from him legally, since they could not take it by force. Time to make our own position clear, Jack said. He opened a communication channel to the council. Speaker Morvan, this is Jack Chen. I have a proposal for you all to consider. Jack's face appeared on screens across the council chamber. Representatives who had been arguing fell silent, curious what the human would say. I understand your concerns, Jack began. I am from a species you barely know. I control technology you have studied for centuries without success. You are worried about what I might do with this power. Those are reasonable fears. Speaker Morven leaned forward. Then you agree to council oversight? No, Jack said firmly. But I offer something better. Transparency. I propose that representatives from every council species be allowed to visit this station, to see what the progenitors left behind, to understand that these facilities are not weapons of conquest but tools of unity. Pretty words, Carthresh growled. But words mean nothing. You could destroy any of us from that station. I could, Jack agreed. But I will not. The progenitors did not leave these stations for war. They left them to help their children work together. I intend to honor that purpose. Before anyone could respond, the station AI spoke urgently. Inheritor, critical situation developing. The trials have been initiated. What trials? Jack asked. The worthiness trials. They activate automatically when an inheritor has been recognized but not yet proven. You must complete 3 tests to gain full access to station authority. The trials begin now. The throne room shifted. Holographic walls appeared, creating a new space. Jack found himself standing in a simulation, but one that felt completely real. Maya and Yuki were gone. He was alone. Trial of knowledge commencing, the AI announced. You face a civilization-ending crisis. You have access to all progenitor knowledge. You have 1 hour to solve the problem or billions die. Begin. The simulation showed a star system. 12 planets orbited a sun that was going unstable. Not slowly, but catastrophically. It would go supernova in 3 days. 8 of the planets held intelligent life. Billions of people with no way to evacuate in time. Jack dove into the problem. The station fed him information faster than he could consciously process, but somehow he understood it all. Physics, engineering, the properties of stars and the forces that held them together. He saw equations that described stellar collapse and theories about how to prevent it. Most solutions were impossible. Evacuating billions in 3 days could not be done. Moving the planets was too slow. There was only one option that might work. If he could inject specific elements into the star's core at precise locations, he might stabilize it long enough for an evacuation. But the math was incredibly complex. One wrong calculation and he would accelerate the collapse instead of preventing it. Jack worked with fierce concentration. The station helped, but it would not give him the answer. He had to find it himself. Minutes ticked by. Sweat ran down his face. The simulation showed the star growing more unstable. People on the planets below began to panic as their scientists detected the coming disaster. With 5 minutes left, Jack found the solution. He input the coordinates and element ratios. The simulation executed his plan. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the star stabilized. Not permanently, but enough to buy 20 years. Enough time to evacuate everyone safely. Trial of knowledge complete, the AI said. Assessment successful. The Inheritor demonstrates sufficient understanding to use progenitor systems responsibly. The simulation faded. Jack found himself back in the throne room, gasping for breath. Before he could recover, the second trial began. Trial of compassion commencing. This time the simulation showed the space around the station. A Zanari ship was caught in the dead star's gravity well. It was falling slowly but inevitably toward destruction. The ship's engines were damaged. They were calling for help, but no one could reach them in time except Jack. You have 2 choices, the AI explained. Choice 1, Use the station's tractor systems to save the Zanari ship. However, doing so will drain the shields to minimal power for 6 hours. During that time, any of the fleets waiting outside could attack successfully. Choice 2. Maintain shields and let the Zanari die. They are your enemies. They want to take this station from you. No one would blame you for choosing survival over compassion. Jack watched the Zanari ship tumble through space. He could see their faces through the sensors. 53 crew members, scientists, engineers, soldiers, people with families and dreams, people who would die if he did nothing. How long to save them? He asked. 43 seconds to extend the tractor beam. Their ship will be pulled to safety, but your shields will drop immediately after. Jack looked at the fleets surrounding the station. Carthresh warships, bull destroyers, ships from a dozen other species. Any one of them might attack if they saw weakness. He would be gambling his life, Maya's life, Yuki's life, and control of the station, on the hope that his enemies would show mercy. Do it, Jack said. Save them. Inheritor, the risk, I said do it. We are not letting people die to protect ourselves. That is not what the progenitors would want. The tractor beam extended. It caught the Zanari ship and pulled it to safety, depositing it in stable orbit. Immediately, the station's shields flickered and dropped to almost nothing. The fleets detected the change instantly. For a long moment, nothing happened. Jack held his breath, waiting for weapons to fire. Then the Zanari ship he had just saved broadcast on all channels. This is Captain Vera of the Zanari research vessel Enlightenment. The human saved us. He dropped his shields to save us. I am formally requesting all fleets honor this act of mercy. Anyone who attacks now proves they are unworthy of progenitor technology. One by one, the fleet stood down. Even Kralthex, for all his hostility, could not bring himself to attack immediately after such a display. The moment passed. The shields climbed back to full power. Trial of compassion complete, the AI said, and now there was approval in its voice. Assessment successful. The Inheritor values life above strategic advantage. This is a core progenitor virtue. Jack collapsed into the throne, exhausted. How many more trials? 1. The trial of sacrifice. This is the most important test. Many who passed the first 2 trials failed here. Are you ready? Do I have a choice? No. Trial of sacrifice commencing. The throne room changed again. This time, Jack saw 2 versions of the future. In the first, he accepted full control of all 12 progenitor stations. He gained power beyond imagination, technology that could reshape the galaxy, authority that would make him the most powerful being in known space. But to gain that power, he would have to let the station change him completely. His DNA would be rewritten to be fully progenitor. He would gain thousands of years of life, incredible mental abilities, and complete mastery over the ancient technology. But he would stop being human. His memories of Maya and Yuki would fade. His connection to Earth would break. He would become something new, something greater, something alone. In the second future, he refused the power. He would remain human. He would have access to the station's basic systems, but not full control. He could protect the facility and share some knowledge, but the deeper secrets would remain locked. He would stay Jack Chen, with all his limitations and weaknesses. He would grow old and die like any human, but he would stay himself. He would remain connected to the people he loved. Choose, the AI said, unlimited power or limited humanity. What matters more to you? Jack looked at both futures. The temptation was enormous. With full power, he could solve so many problems. He could end wars, cure diseases, lift humanity to heights they had never imagined. But at what cost? If he stopped being human, how could he understand humanity's needs? If he abandoned his friends, how could he claim to value connection? The progenitors ascended, Jack said slowly, working through his thoughts. They went to a higher plane of existence, but they did not force their children to follow. They left these stations so their descendants could choose their own paths. They wanted evolution, not imitation. Correct, the AI said, but that does not answer the question. Will you accept the power offered? No, Jack said firmly. I refuse, because the moment I stop being human is the moment I stop understanding why the progenitors did all this. They wanted their children to grow and change naturally, to find their own way to greatness. If I take a shortcut by rewriting my DNA, I am betraying everything they stood for. Silence filled the throne room. Jack wondered if he had failed. Then the AI spoke and he could hear satisfaction in its voice. Trial of sacrifice complete. Assessment successful. The Inheritor understands that true worthiness is remaining true to oneself. The progenitors did not want their descendants to become them. They wanted their descendants to become the best versions of themselves. The simulations faded. Jack was back in the real throne room with Maya and Yuki staring at him in concern. "You were gone for 3 hours," Maya said. "We could not reach you." "What happened?" Jack explained the trials. When he finished, Yuki was smiling. "You passed because you remained yourself. The progenitors left these stations for their descendants, not their replacements." "Correct," the AI said. "Full station authority is now granted to Inheritor Jack Chen. All defensive systems, knowledge archives, and communication networks are under your command. However, you remain genetically human. This is as it should be. The progenitors wanted guardians, not gods." Jack stood before the throne and addressed the galaxy. Every ship, every station, every council chamber received his transmission. This moment would define humanity's place among the stars. "I have completed the trials," he began. "The progenitor station has accepted me as Inheritor. I now have access to technology and knowledge beyond what any species currently possesses. You are worried about what I will do with this power. Let me tell you." He gestured and holographic images appeared showing the other 11 progenitor stations scattered across the galaxy. "These facilities do not belong to me. They do not belong to humanity. They belong to all of us. Every species in this galaxy shares progenitor DNA. We are all their children, no matter how much we have changed." "Then surrender control," Carthresh demanded over the channel. "Let the council govern these stations." "No," Jack said, "because the council would fight over them. You are already fighting. I have a better proposal. This station becomes neutral ground, a place where all species can come to learn, to trade, and to work together. I will be its guardian, but not its master. The knowledge here will be shared carefully and equally with everyone." Speaker Morvan spoke cautiously. "And what prevents you from keeping the best technology for yourself?" "For humanity? Nothing prevents me except my word," Jack admitted. "You will have to trust that I mean what I say. Trust is hard, I know, so let me prove it. Envoy Vesh, your ship was damaged when you tried to break through the shields 3 days ago. Bring it to the station. My engineers will repair it using progenitor technology, free of charge. No conditions." There was stunned silence. Then Vesh spoke carefully. "You would help us? After we tried to take the station from you?" "The progenitors did not leave these facilities to breed more conflict," Jack said. "They left them to help their children. All their children. If I only help humans, I am betraying their purpose. So yes, I will help you. I will help anyone who comes here seeking peace instead of conquest." Over the next days, change came slowly but steadily. The Zanari brought their damaged ship. Jack and his team repaired it, teaching Zanari engineers new techniques as they worked. Other species began sending representatives, curious and cautious. Maya organized the diplomatic efforts while Yuki established research protocols. The station became busy with activity for the first time in millions of years. Different species worked side by side, sharing knowledge and building relationships. Not everyone was happy. The Carthresh remained hostile, refusing to participate. But they did not attack either. Even Carthresh could see that the galaxy was changing around him. Fighting Jack now would make the Carthresh outcasts. 3 weeks after the trials, Earth's delegation arrived. Jack met them in the station's newly opened diplomatic hall. Ambassador Sarah Chen, his distant cousin, led the group. She looked at Jack with mixed pride and worry. "You have made humanity incredibly important," she said, "and incredibly vulnerable. Every species out there is watching us now." "I know," Jack said. "That is why we have to be very careful. Earth cannot try to use this station for advantage. The moment humanity acts like conquerors, we lose everything the progenitors stood for. Some back home want exactly that," Sarah warned. "They see this as our chance to dominate the galaxy, to become the strongest power." "Then they do not understand what I learned from the trials," Jack said. "Strength is not the same as worth. The progenitors were the strongest species ever, but they chose to leave rather than rule. They wanted their children to find their own greatness. If humanity tries to dominate others, we prove we are not worthy of what the progenitors left us." Sarah studied him. "You have changed. You are still Jack, but different somehow." "I carry responsibility now," Jack said simply. "The weight of 12 million years of planning. The hopes of a species that ascended to something beyond physical existence. They trusted that eventually, One of their descendants would be worthy of their legacy. I have to prove that trust was not misplaced. The weeks became months. The station transformed into something new. A university where species shared knowledge. An embassy where disputes were resolved through discussion instead of war. A symbol that cooperation was possible even between ancient enemies. Jack sat on the throne often now, not because he needed to command the station, but because it was the best place to access the knowledge archives. He was learning constantly, diving deep into progenitor science and philosophy. The AI guided him, patient and thorough. "You are progressing well," the AI told him one day. "At this rate, you will achieve full understanding of the core systems in 4 years." "And the other stations?" Jack asked. "When can I visit them?" "Whenever you wish. Your genetic signature will grant you access. However, this unit recommends establishing stability here first. Each station will have its own challenges." Maya entered the chamber with news. "The council is proposing something. They want to make you an official council member, not representing humanity, but representing the progenitor facilities." A neutral voice in their debates, Jack considered that. "What do you think?" "I think it is a trap," Maya said bluntly. "They want to tie you to council politics, make you part of their system so you cannot remain truly neutral." "Or," Yuki suggested, joining them, "it is an olive branch, an admission that they cannot control you so they would rather work with you." "Perhaps both," Jack said. "Politics is rarely simple, but I think I should accept. Not because I want to be part of council politics, but because I need to show I am willing to participate in the galaxy's existing structures. I cannot just stand apart and expect everyone to trust me." He sent his acceptance to the council. The response was immediate and complex. Some species celebrated, others grumbled. But no one could deny that the galaxy had changed. A new player had emerged, one who offered cooperation instead of conquest. 6 months after claiming the throne, Jack stood in the diplomatic hall addressing representatives from 40 species. They had come to attend the first Galactic Assembly hosted on the Progenitor station. Not a council meeting, but something new. A place where any species could speak and be heard equally. "The progenitors left us more than technology," Jack told them. "They left us a challenge. Can their children, despite all their differences, learn to work together? Can we build something greater than what any of us could achieve alone? I believe we can. This station is proof of that belief." He gestured to the room around them. Species that had been enemies for centuries were talking, sharing, learning. It was not perfect. There were still arguments and mistrust, but it was a start. "We are all descendants of the progenitors," Jack continued. "That makes us family. We have forgotten that for too long. We have let our differences divide us. But family does not have to agree on everything. Family just has to remember that they belong to each other." The words resonated. Jack saw it in the faces watching him. The progenitors had ascended 12 million years ago, but their dream lived on in this moment. In this gathering of their children, finally starting to remember they were related. That night, Jack sat alone on the throne. The station hummed quietly around him, content after so long being empty. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, a simple salvage operation that had changed everything. "Are you satisfied?" he asked the AI. "This unit does not experience satisfaction," the AI replied. "But if it could, it would be satisfied. You have fulfilled the progenitor's purpose admirably, Inheritor." "I am just beginning," Jack said. "There are 11 other stations to integrate. Decades of knowledge to master. A galaxy to help unite." "Yes," the AI agreed. "The work has only started. But the progenitors waited 12 million years for someone capable of doing that work. They chose well when they designed humanity." Jack smiled at that. Humanity had not been an accident. They had been created specifically to inherit this responsibility, to remain unchanged in a galaxy where every other species had modified themselves beyond recognition, to remember what the progenitors had valued most, staying true to who you were, even when offered the power to become something else. He stood from the throne and walked to the great windows that looked out over the dead star. The fleets were gone now. In their place, civilian ships came and went freely. Trade vessels, research ships, diplomatic shuttles. The station was alive again with purpose. Maya and Yuki joined him at the windows. They stood together in comfortable silence. 3 humans who had stumbled onto a destiny they had never imagined. Friends who had stayed together through impossible circumstances. "What do you think the progenitors would say if they could see us now?" Yuki asked quietly. Jack thought about that. He thought about the trials, about the message they had left, about everything he had learned in these months. I think, he said slowly, they would say we are doing exactly what they hoped we would do. Not conquering, not dominating, just being human and letting that be enough. The station's lights shone brighter than they had in millions of years. Not the harsh light of weapons and war, but the warm light of learning and cooperation. A beacon in the darkness calling the Progenitor's children home. Jack Chen, engineer and reluctant guardian, had accepted a throne that rejected thousands before him. Not because he was perfect, but because he stayed imperfect. Not because he was strong, but because he knew when to be gentle.